And good morning, everybody. I'm your host, Kevin Vera, here with another episode of Coffee, Cream, and Crimson. Mason Williams and two new guests here on the show, Todd Lau, Jack Edwards. Glad to have you guys on today.
Glad to be here.
Good to be here. Good morning.
I'm getting a phone call from Ridgely, Maryland right now, but hey, I'm happy to be here. We're back in the studio. Let's get after it.
It's been a crazy morning a little bit, but it's all good, all fun. We'll talk men's soccer, women's basketball, men's basketball, football, the whole spiel, as it's been a pretty big week for Indiana sports. We'll start with soccer here. Obviously, Indiana lost 3-0 to Penn State in the Big Ten Championship, but they make the tournament as they await the winner of Louisville Bowling Green. Todd, Jack, you guys are one of the best Indiana men's soccer reporters out here that we have. First of all, Jack, I'll start with you. Initial thoughts on the Penn State game?
You know, it was reminiscent of that Maryland match for me, at least, because when I looked at that one, I really thought that Indiana created some good looks for themselves, but they really weren't able to convert them. Against Maryland, that was really prevalent. Against Penn State, they had some good ones in the opening 20-30 minutes, but once they kind of went from that initial phase of let's press and let's kind of dominate the early proceedings to, sit back a bit more, Penn State kind of came into the match. They had a bit of a lucky goal. So the performance, again, Indiana hasn't had a bad performance in weeks. But the issue is, I think that, you need to be clinical. And that's what they learned heading into the tournament. I think that there are things to take away that are positives. But at the same time, you need to be able to finish your chances, because if you don't do that against some of the best sides in the nation, even a Louisville or a Bowling Green, you're going to struggle. So I think that the key takeaway for me was finish your chances. And if you do that, you avoid a lot of problems.
Yeah, for me, I don't think Indiana's played a bad game since Creighton, like way back early in September. So, to be honest, I think that final, the first 30 minutes, all Indiana, just numerous of chances. Endeley, Becerra, in front of goal, good combination play to create opportunities. But again, not being clinical enough, not finishing those chances. We had that talk, Jack, that Patrick McDonald cuts inside, has a chance to open up. I know it's his weaker foot, maybe bend one. Really good look in front of goal. Opts to lay it off to Herbert Endeley instead. Endeley runs in, and his shot gets blocked off. 2 minutes later, Penn State at the other end get a goal, and from then on, Indiana just not really able to do much and threaten Penn State at all. The second half, all Penn State, complete control of the tempo of the game. Penn State had most of everything going their way. I know that Indiana outshot Penn State in the end, but those shots were opportunities that came early on that should really have been finished off.
I do want to touch on a couple of key substitutions for Penn State. Daniel Bloyu and Tiger Evans, both coming off the bench, being injected into the game kind of after, like Jack and Tom mentioned, after that first 20 to 25 minute phase where it was all Indiana to start the game. All the chances were falling Indiana's way. And Bloyu and Evans come in, and they completely changed the dynamic of the game. They brought in fresh legs, a lot of pace, and IU just couldn't keep up with it.
Yeah, one thing I want to ask you guys is, how did you guys see Indiana against Rutgers and Northwestern? Yes, they lost against Penn State, but initially, what are your guys' thoughts on the games beforehand?
Well, they kept it at small margins, obviously 1-0, especially against Northwestern, requiring some heroics from Celentano, and then obviously, you have your center back coming up with a goal. So that should have, I think, spelled a little bit of problems for Indiana going forward, that if you're unable to, kind of put teams away, it's been a while since they've really kind of, VCU at the end of October was the last time that they really kind of stormed past a team. And even beyond that, Evansville, Wisconsin, Penn State before that, the Penn State victory in the regular season before that, were all narrow wins. So this team hasn't really had a too many great dominant showings. They were comfortable against Rutgers. They felt in control in that match, but always when it's a one-goal lead, it's a very narrow margin. Northwestern, we saw how fine the margins can be as well. So I think that when you kind of turn that switch, and Celentano has a bit of a misfortune with the Kuhn shot that deflected in, with some really good work in the box. I think it was Tiger Evans who got the second one. When that doesn't go your way, you aren't able to rely on it as much. I think it was after maybe the VCU match where Sam Sarver was speaking, and he said, it's such a boost having Celentano in this great defense because that maybe it just requires one goal. And it is true. It's great to have a great defense behind you, one of the best in the nation. But if you rely on that too heavily, then you leave yourself prone to potentially, in matches where you get a bit of misfortune, not being at your best. So I liked the Rutgers performance, a little less so Northwestern. And Penn State was actually kind of a continuation. I don't think, Tom, I'm interested in your thoughts on this. I don't think there was a drop-off from Northwestern to Penn State. It was just that Penn State had more talent and they were more clinical.
Yeah, for sure. We called the Rutgers game, so we got a good vantage point. We saw what was going on. Very physical game. Indiana control of the match in terms of what they wanted to do, keeping Rutgers in their own side, not allowing Rutgers to really attack much. I don't think Rutgers had a clear-cut opportunity in that match at all. Northwestern, though, if Roman Salentano didn't make that, Sports Center top 10 save, that
Essentially stand on his head.
Yeah.
gone viral. Every single body I know is talking about it. I have coaches in Thailand. I have friends in Europe talking about, hey, is this guy playing in your school? It's insane. I've never seen a goalkeeper made. I think it was 3 in the end because that second one was blocked off by Mayer, who, believe it or not, was at the other end of the field and got the winner a few minutes later. So could have easily lost in the semis to Northwestern. Could have easily been a game that they drop. It could have been an upset. Goes into the final. I agree with you, Jack. A bit of a drop-off in terms of not being able to perform that clinically going forward. We've seen Indiana games like VCU, games like Ohio State, where they get a chance in front of goal, they convert it. It doesn't matter if it's a cross, if it's an opportunity or outside the 18-yard box, combination plays, different types of attacking plays. IU is able to finish it off. Penn State match, though, it's so similar to Maryland again, where you go on that good run. IU had 7 games, winning in a row heading into that Maryland game. Same thing for this. 2 wins in the Big Ten tournament. Easy chance to win a 4th consecutive title. And after that 25, 30 minutes doesn't go well, Indiana just basically said, we're going to go forward. We're going to still try to get that goal. But at the same time, they switched off defensively, not marking players inside the 18-yard box, allowing guys to really dribble past them. That second goal, don't want to point fingers, but Nick Sessa could have communicated with Salentano better. He has to press higher. You don't allow a player to make a couple of moves inside the 18-yard box, cut back and forth, and then in the end have an open shot to the far post. That's just basic defending. That's not allowed. So it's just little mistakes like that. And then the first goal, allowing a player to have his back turned to you and lay one off. So it's just things like that, moments like that Roman Salentano will make the saves, but in situations like that, it's almost impossible.
That is the biggest flaw of this defense, really quick, is that sometimes they struggle to clear opportunities out of the box, especially that first one. Blow, having that much time to kind of survey his options with his back to goal. He wasn't a goal threat himself, but he obviously brought in Kuhn to score the goal. And the Evans one, I think Sasek needs to stay in front of his man in that one. Gets turned a little bit. So that's the one fault this team has in my eyes, and it was really exposed against Penn State.
Yeah, definitely. It has to be something that IU has to change before the tournament.
One thing that I want to just ask you guys real quick. From this point on, no matter who we play, no matter how far the tournament goes, do you think the defense and Roman Salentano is going to be the key for Indiana to keep moving forward?
Yes. Yeah, I think that this team, if it has its days where it can't finish its chances, if it's 0-0, you're still in it, obviously. The longer they can keep this team in matches, the better. Their most recent losses came when goals didn't come late. They came against Maryland around the 50th minute and in the 35th minute against Penn State, the most 2 recent defeats. So I think that you need, if the longer this defense can keep the team in it, they will win this. Any success they have in the postseason will come off the back of their defense. It will not be, I could be surprised, I could change, but I do not anticipate it coming from, beautiful attacking play that outscores your opponents 5-4 like a Louisville repeat from the preseason. I think it's going to be 1-0s, 2-1s, 2-0s that get you this far. But the longer, if you can get 70-plus minutes, if you get to overtime, you always back your forwards to pull out one moment of magic. If they can keep it close, though, is the big key. Because against Maryland and against Penn State, when it did when you did concede, the second one came pretty soon after. And once you go 2-0 down, I like this team's chances of coming back from 2-0 down. It's really hard to do that for any team, but this team has not shown a great ability to come back from deficits.
You brought up expectations, and Mason, I'll go to you. again, it doesn't matter who we play so far, and I mean, we'll see later tonight who we face on Sunday. But what are your expectations moving forward to this tournament for Indiana?
I think there's a lot of intrigue surrounding this IU team right now. I do want to quickly touch on the point that Jack brought up about the defense for IU. They'll get a test early on, no matter who it is, with Louisville or Bowling Green, two of the top scoring offenses in D1 soccer this year. IU's got a top 20 defense and goals against average, but you're looking at a Louisville squad or a Bowling Green squad that both can score goals essentially whenever they want to. Louisville having one of the top goal scorers in the entire country. As far as the bracket and looking ahead, I don't want to say like I was surprised that IU kept a national seed, but it is helpful having that first game at Bill Armstrong. Mm-hmm. Louisville, obviously, as we've seen, was a tough challenge at the beginning of the year. Obviously, the way the team was playing at the beginning of the year versus how they're playing now, two completely different IU squads. And I'm not the most up to date guy on Bowling Green. I'll just go ahead and throw that out there right now. But IU's got, if they want to make a deep run in this tournament, the most likely team they're gonna have to face after a presumptual win against Louisville or Bowling Green is the number 2 seed in the country, Washington. Mm-hmm. So expectations are there. I know Todd Yeagley he's got the guys, aiming towards the top, but it's going to be a tough challenge for sure. Jack, Ta.
Yeah, look, Indiana this season won 14 games. 10 of those games decided by just the odd goal. So it's not been a dominant season. It's not been a season that IU has gone out there, thrashed teams, won by a big margin at all. It's been a season where Indiana's kept a very solid defense going into games, making sure that there aren't any silly mistakes. Yes, Roman Salatano will come to the rescue, but also going forward, like Jack mentioned, we're not going to see free-flowing soccer. We're not going to see beautiful through passes, beautiful combination plays, just, high-end attacking stuff. But this team needs to really continue what got them that 7-game shutout streak, the defense. Just make sure to stay locked in. Looking towards the tournament, though, Indiana very lucky, in my opinion, to get that 15 seed. Almost missed out. Only 1 to 16 teams get that first round bye. So the fact that IU lost to Penn State 3-0 might have been a big factor that seed isn't higher. It's not a top 10 seed. It's not, in an area of the bracket that Indiana could have an easier run. At the same time, though, Louisville and Bowling Green, I expect Louisville to come out. I spoke with a player earlier this week, met him in school, actually, won't say who, but he told me, I asked him straight up, Louisville or Bowling Green? He said, I hope it's not Louisville, because Louisville was very threatening in that preseason game. It was a 5-4 game. Jack was there, I was there. End-to-end stuff, very physical towards the end as well. So I think that it's already going to be a tough test for Indiana in the second round. No easy path at all to the round of 16 or round of 8.
Yeah, in terms of expectations, I was on a podcast yesterday. I think this team is going to win it all. That was my prediction. I think that they have
interesting
already.
Burner,
huh?
Interesting.
I think that when I compare this team to the 2012 team, the last national champion from IU, was a bad season by all standards for IU. Like they lost in the first round of the Big Ten tournament, and they just were not at the usual standards of themselves. But they were the 16 seed. They got hot. They went away several times. So the home away factor is not a big deal in my eyes, at least. They still beat some really good teams that year, and I projected them to beat some teams because I think that there is, if any team has it in them to come make some upsets, it's Indiana. I think whoever comes out of Kentucky from that Bowling Green Louisville match, I think Indiana will favor themselves. If it's Louisville, you already beat them once this year. You put 5 past them, and your defense is markedly better than it was in that match. Has your offense taken a step back? I don't think it has. So you would favor yourself in that one. Washington is going to be the big test. I think that in my head, at least, it's one of two things. You either fall to Washington, and this team kind of just resigns itself to third round of the NCAA tournament. Mm-hmm. runner third place in the regular season, runners up in the Big Ten tournament. Just not a great season by your standards, but you rebuild the next year. You beat Washington. I think it's just downhill. I think it's just a snowball effect from there. You've beaten the number 2 team in the nation, and at that point, who's harder? Oregon State maybe, and then you find that maybe in the final. So I think that was my prediction: is Oregon State loses to Indiana in the final.
Wow.
So I think that this team it's got everything it needs. It's got the foundations of a team that can win. Now, what it needs a lot of luck. We saw in the spring there was a lot of luck that went their way. If they can kind of get that going for them, there's no reason why this team is not as good as anybody else in the entire nation.
Yeah, you talked about luck. You covered the team last spring. Penalty kicks in the tournament, 1-0 late goals, games where Indiana really had to grind out during that tournament run. But this season, I'm more pessimistic than you, Jack. I don't think that Indiana will make it past that Washington game. It's a very tough. Obviously, I think Washington is going to make it to the third round of the round of 16, but it's a very tough away trip. It's to the West Coast. We've not really seen Indiana live up to the big games yet this season, and that's why I'm a bit concerned. I know that if Indiana wins that one, it's an easier path because the second seed in the tournament is out, but I just don't see it in them this season at all. I think that it's been a bit of a struggle to even beat teams in the Big Ten, teams that aren't even in the tournament. So I don't know. It's tough.
Well, the way I'll describe it is that they are better than they were last year. They look better than they did last season. And last season they got to the College Cup. And the only difference is the number in front of your name. Last year it was 3. This year it's 15. And to say that they're 12 spots worse is very valid based on their resume and what they've put on the table. But in terms of the talent, in terms of the way I've seen this team when they are at their absolute best play, the ceiling of this team versus the ceiling of last year's team, this year's team is markedly higher.
Yeah.
It's just a case of you need to be able to click in the right moment. Now, I think that's going to happen, just being around this team. I think it's going to happen, but, obviously it remains to be seen what ends up occurring.
Definitely a lot of young talent in this team. So I agree with Jack on that one. The ceiling is quite high, but can they deliver? That's the only question.
If the expectations aren't here yet, they will be soon with this team. I just want to quickly look around the rest of the national tournament bracket real quick just to point out some possible key matchups. We've talked at length a little bit here about the number 2 seed Washington. That would be a round of 16 matchup for Indiana should they make it. On the other side of the bracket, in-state rival Notre Dame, the 4th-ranked team in the country, Big Ten champion Penn State earned the 12 seed. Maryland in this quarter of the bracket is not a nationally ranked team, but will still present a tough challenge for LIU as well. To
bring that up, I think Maryland actually might get a bit hot. I think it might be an Indiana-Maryland rematch. That was my bold
in the quarters
of the Elite Eight. Yeah.
Wow.
Because I think they'll beat St. Louis, LIU first. I mean they'll beat St. Louis, and they'll beat Duke. Was my prediction there. I think Maryland have got it in them. I think the Big Ten is. In their RPI and in terms of their national standing, they're a bit underrated in my eyes, at least.
Yeah, I think there was my bad to cut you off, but I think there was comments saying that Michigan should have even made the tournament.
They should have made it, I think, but that's another discussion.
One thing that I want to bring up, and Mason was talking about this, like looking at the tournament ahead. For me, St. Louis is kind of a sneaky one. They've been playing really well. They've been consistent the past week and a half, 2 weeks. So for me, I wouldn't be surprised if St. Louis comes out of that bracket.
They're the only undefeated team left in the country.
Yeah, exactly.
So
and a former IU player plays at St. Louis. Yeah.
The issue is they haven't played a top 25 team in the country.
Yeah.
Their strength schedule is non-existent, which is why they actually were a bit higher than I expected them to be. 10 I thought was, yes you're undefeated, you can only play who you can play, but I thought 10 was a bit high. I would love that storyline though. Palazzolo going back to play his old roommates, his old friends at IU, because him and Joe Schmidt were very close when they were at IU, and then you could have a midfield battle potentially. Unsure what the fitness of Joe Schmidt is at the moment. But it's
big talking point as well. Yeah,
I think that that's going to be a very fascinating what ends up happening there.
So before we move on, I'll ask you guys predictions for today's game with Louisville and Bowling Green. Obviously, we get the winner of that game. Kind of from what I was understanding is we maybe want to see Bowling Green because Louisville is, the better team in some of our eyes. the preseason game 5-4 against Louisville earlier in August. So, I mean, who do you guys have in tonight's game?
Yeah, I think Louisville. No brainer for that one. Abubakar Kamara, 13 goals. We talked about him before the show. He's leading the way. So it'll be a Indiana-Louisville battle, a rematch of that very physical affair early on in preseason.
I disagree with the sentiment that you want Bowling Green if you're Indiana. I never like wanting a team anyways, but if you're Indiana, what Louisville reminds you was when you played them last, you were the top dogs in the country. Everyone was looking at you as, all right, time to show up. And when Yeagley was saying these times in these matches, he was saying these matches are like Super Bowls for other teams. You know, he was bullish in saying that. He was like saying, you know, we are one of the best teams in the nation. Teams who come here, they are going to give us their best. Indiana needs that reminder that they don't play up to the other teams. Other teams play up to them, even if you're 15th in the nation. That's why I would love to see them play Louisville and have that reminder of last time this happened, where were we? Where are we now? We give some good perspective. I anticipate it to be Louisville at home, you know, with Kamara especially as a really good threat. I'm going to watch that one because, you know, it's tough to judge teams because tournament play versus regular season play or even conference tournament play is so vastly different. So I'm really excited to watch how this one plays out. I expect it to be Louisville. Bowling Green have it in them, though, because it's two very, very evenly matched teams.
Well, and Bowling Green's there for a reason, right?
Yes.
Anybody can beat anybody in the postseason. I will also take Louisville. I think they could just score goals at will too often. But I think it'll be an intriguing one to watch for sure, and one to keep your eye on.
Yeah, it'll be fun. I mean, we'll see later tonight who we play this upcoming Sunday, and, you know, we'll all be on top of the news to see what the matchup will be. We'll go on after a fun day yesterday in Assembly Hall. We'll go on and talk about men's basketball. Indiana beats St. John in a pretty close game. Jack, me and you were there. Mm-hmm. I saw you there for a little bit. Mason, Tar, I know you guys were glued to your guys' screens watching the game. One thing that I want to bring up is this was the first game in my eyes that was the real test to see where Indiana basketball is at. Mm-hmm. It was definitely an interesting team. No matter the year, St. John's is always a very above-average team, very well-rounded team, very well-coached team. So it was an interesting game yesterday. You know, again, Indiana blew a lead later in the game. You know, we saw it against Eastern Michigan. Coach Woodson talked about it at the end of the press conference. But overall, I feel like Indiana's on the right track. There's definitely some things that the Indiana team needs to polish. But overall, I was gladly impressed with the St. John's win yesterday night. Jack, I mean, you were there. What did you see?
You know, it was shades of both matches before it. You know, you had the kind of second half catastrophe against Eastern Michigan where you kind of just have this big comeback against you, as well as the kind of really just fun, free-flowing, great in transition basketball you saw against Northern Illinois. I think this team, it's got so much potential going forward. And, you know, Woodson talked about it after the game. His quotes, every time you hear him speak, it's such a contrast with Archie Miller. You'd almost be more pessimistic after you heard Archie Miller speak. After you hear Mike Woodson speak, you say, all right, I trust this dude to know what he's doing. Because he does know what he's doing very clearly. And he was saying after that one, you know, we struggled. We need to figure out how to stop letting these teams coming back from us. But at the same time, St. John's never took the lead against Indiana after the leading 3-0. In fact, very early on in the game. And they did what they needed to win. And that is a skill that is very important. This team's three-point shooting was okay in that one. If someone has the exact number, I'd love to hear it. But that still needs to improve over the long term. So I think it was more positive than negative in my eyes against St. John's because they're a very good team, as you mentioned, Kevin. So I think going forward, they're in a good spot.
Indiana shot the ball at a 33% clip.
Needs to improve. Yeah.
I think that was one of the things that I wanted to see is just how much our perimeter shooting could improve against a team that, you know, one thing that was a storyline going up to this game was how Indiana was going to react to St. John's full court press. You know, St. John's is known to have that full court press defense, and I think they did a good job. You know, there were times where the ball got a little bit out of hand, but overall, I was glad to see Indiana improve. But back to what you were saying about Coach Woodson talking about this team, I 100% agree with you. There was one point yesterday in the press conference, and I'm not going to get this exact quote word for word, but he was talking about blowing the lead, and he said, I need to do a better job of controlling this team in those type of situations. And that is exactly what Indiana wants to see from their coach, and especially from a guy like Coach Mike Woodson. Todd, I'll go to you. It's, moving on this team, it's going to be interesting to see how we progress. Is blowing, yes, it's only been 3 games, and St. John's was really the first one that people were a little bit worried on. But does blowing those big leads that we've been blowing, that Indiana's been blowing, does that worry you guys? Does that kind of maybe just a worry for maybe the possible future in the season?
Yeah, I think it's still early on, so really small sample size, can't really make much of it. But yeah, I'm more concerned about the shooting. The free throw shooting seems to be a problem with this team ever since the Archie era began. So I'm more concerned about the in-game stuff. I think blowing the lead, it can be taken care of long term. I don't think that the 3 games really will foreshadow what's to come for the entire season. But can we just talk about Trayce Jackson-Davis, though? I mean, that guy is an absolute monster. Like, gets his 1,000th career point, dominating at both ends. This guy's going to average like 2-3 blocks per game minimum. Yeah. So what an absolute baller we have here at Indiana.
I also want to kind of rephrase your question a bit, Kevin. We could almost look at this as either Indiana blowing leads or the other team starts to score. I mean, look at St. John's in the first half, 25% from 3, 33% from the field. Second half, 51% from the field, 40% from 3. I mean, they improved in double digits in both numbers. So they just started scoring again. Yes, that was in part due to poor defense from Indiana. But I think that other teams have taken a bit of time to score, so maybe that's almost a problem down the road. What if teams start the game scoring as opposed to being a bit slower start that we've seen from all 3 games? So I think that again, Todd said, too small sample size. Need a lot more to really be able to judge.
It's interesting you say that because St. John's scored 27 in the first quarter, and then they scored 47 in the second one. That's 20 more points, and that's a significant amount of number. I mean, you look at Indiana. Indiana scored 39 in the first and then 37 in the second. So, Mason, for you, moving forward, kind of what do you want to see Indiana polish up? Maybe not for the whole season, but just like in the next game or maybe just the next few steps.
Yeah, quickly to touch on the previous point, I think the Eastern Michigan blown lead is a lot more concerning than this one. The sense that last night's game provided me was it was a track meet up and down. That game was one of the quickest moving basketball games I've seen in a long time. Mm-hmm. And like Jack mentioned, IU never trailed after trailing 3-0, IU never trailed. St. John's was there, and then they weren't, and then they were, and then they weren't, but they never were in the box seat again after that 3-0 lead. So, and St. John's a good team. They've got some ball players on there. Julian Champagny,
good.
Excuse me if I'm butchering his name, but 36 points last night, 32 points on 6 of 12 from 3-point land, 12 of 22 from the field. Was absolutely putting the ball in at will, shooting at an unreal clip. So I think, and we talked about the press as well, that was going to always cause issues at some point for IU, and that game got real sloppy to start the second half. But I would, again, like Tom mentioned as well, small sample size. I would be much more worried about the Eastern Michigan one than the St. John's one here. But I think just looking forward, IU's got a few good opportunities here to kind of polish up the defense, kind of polish up the consistency on both sides of the ball. And Todd, I know you wanted to mention something real quick, so yeah. I'll go ahead and finish up my point here. But I think IU's got what we like to call a couple tune-ups here before the Syracuse and then the Nebraska matchups in November and start December. Todd.
Yeah, I was just going to sort of ask you guys a quick question, is that after yesterday's game, I'm not sure who said it, but someone definitely said, if this was last year, we'd probably lose it. Was it TJD or Race or one of them? But you think...
I don't know if it was a player, but I know without the fans, this is a different game entirely. If it's out at Assembly Hall, it's packed. It's an entirely different game.
Well, I think that sentiment is also expressed in who's coaching the team this year.
Yeah, definitely. So
those types of games last year, or in the previous 4 years of Archie Miller, would turn out to be losses.
Yeah. So my question, real quick one is, do you think the mood has finally changed?
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
absolutely,
Absolutely.
absolutely.
I mean,
One thing that I want to ask though is, we can, whether we have Archie Miller as head coach or Mike Woodson, whatever the case might be, I want to ask this: does Indiana win this game, if they were not at Assembly Hall yesterday?
Oh no, not the slightest. I mean, it was a 2-point game with a 10-point impact from the fans. It was unbelievable how much of an impact they played because it was. I mean, Penny said after the game, he could barely hear himself think, and it was a great experience for him, and he loved it. But he couldn't hear his teammates talk. He couldn't hear himself think. That plays a huge role, and it's a cycle. Indiana gets better. The fans get more involved, more into it. The fan base kind of returns to that level of where it used to be. The team improves because if Assembly Hall is a cauldron to play in, then it makes it even better. So yes, 100% the mood has changed.
I think a lot of people found out how loud Assembly Hall can get last night.
That wasn't even full.
If it really wants to be, especially for a 9 p.m. game. Props to everybody that was there. That was one of the most energetic games Assembly Hall has seen in a long time. Obviously, scratch last year, but still, like Jack mentioned, I believe the home court advantage is an absolute real thing in college basketball, especially when you play one of the meccas of college basketball with Simon Scott Assembly Hall. I just want to touch on the bench play for IU real quick. Jordan Geronimo coming in last night, essentially saving that game for IU, winning them that game 7 points in 8 minutes. And then Tamar Bates as well, just playing with so much confidence, exuding so much swagger out on the court. And I think that's just something that this team has missed in the past few years is a sense of, hey, we play good ball and we're going to go do that. That kind of that confidence, that swagger that any good team needs to exude when they play because it's going to show. And I think IU finally got a first taste of that last night for the first time in a couple of years. It's like this is what it feels like to be a good ball club and to play like it.
Tamar Bates, he looked good. I mean, he had an 11-point burst in that first half, but when he was clicking in that moment, he is a threat off the bench. I mean, there are some good bench options for Indiana, which can only help them going forward.
That's the thing that I've probably been most impressed with is just the depth of this team. Coach Woodson has been saying it all year long. It's, if a guy is struggling or for example, Galloway yesterday, he got hurt, whatever the case might be, the mentality of this team is next man up. Next man up, just compete until the final seconds. And, it's the thing about Archie Miller and Coach Woodson is when Coach Woodson came, and you guys can all agree, there's just this aura around the basketball team again this year.
He used to play. He used to play for Indiana. He knows what it means, and he can instill that in his players.
Yeah, I mean, Indiana obviously has the brand, obviously has the name, but for the past couple of years, I mean, that's obviously been gone. But now you just walk around campus and you feel a buzz and the energy every time the Indiana team plays. And yesterday, walking to Assembly Hall, you could start to feel the love from the fans and the love for this basketball team.
You could just feel it on campus yesterday. It felt like it was a big game buzz on campus. Everybody was talking about it. It's like, hey, you going to the game? Like, what are you doing for the game tonight? It's been a long time since I can think maybe back to the Cincinnati football game possibly this year.
I'm a junior, and that hasn't been the case since I've been here at IU.
Right. So, and I think what's really cool, I guess, one thing COVID has kind of presented is like now you have half the undergraduate body here who have never been able to experience an IU game as a student.
No pain yet. No pain yet.
A clean slate. You have so many eager and optimistic people that are, have been bottled up for a year and are just excited to be in an event, let alone an event for a good team.
Yes.
So, and I think the best part about it is they're not even fully healthy yet. I know they've been talking about. We've not even talked about Michael Durr yet, a 7-footer on the bench who they're just trying to play into shape right now. Mm-hmm. He's been hurt and he's been practicing with the squad maybe for 2 weeks now.
Yeah.
So just getting him some minutes last night, even if it's only 3, just getting him some minutes in a big time matchup like that is going to help him and help the rest of the squad going forward. But yeah, I think there's a lot to be happy about right now if you're an IU basketball fan.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. In the beginning of the season, I was feeling a little bit. Not uneasy, but a little bit shaky to see where this team was at. But, seeing the first 3 games, I can definitely say that I'm getting more excited, more confident, and I definitely am enjoying Indiana basketball as the season is going. I'm excited to see conference play. You know, our first conference game isn't until December 4th against Nebraska, but that's going to be a good game. I mean, I feel like Nebraska has definitely been improving every year. They're definitely not in the top of the Big Ten, but they're definitely improving in the Big Ten.
It's a good team to start conference play with.
Exactly. It's a good team. And I mean, we got Syracuse before that game, which is going to be a fun game out in New York. We'll go on to the women's basketball, the 4th ranked team in the nation, the highest ranking in Indiana women's basketball history. Let me just say this team is fun to watch. This team is extremely fun to watch. This team has personalities. This team has character. This team has a sense of they got a chip on their shoulder. They want to go back to where they finished last year and go into the Final Four. But overall, and the most important thing, is Indiana has talent. Mm-hmm. Indiana has played great so far these past couple games. I mean, they blew out Norfolk State. We play Quinnipiac on Saturday. But then a very interesting game. We play Stanford Thursday, November 25th. We beat Kentucky, who was a pretty good team. But what are you guys looking forward to for this Stanford game, which is going to be a top 10 matchup?
Well, I think the best part about this Indiana basketball team so far is you've had 4 wins, 4 if you count the exhibition, but 3 regular season wins, and you've had 3 different standout players. You've got Mckenzie Holmes going off, you've got Grace Berger playing well, Allie Patberg playing well, Nicole Cardano-Hillary with an unreal game at Butler, Alexa Golbe Tuesday night.
That's the entire starting lineup, and if they're all doing well.
And you're getting production top to bottom from not just the starters too. Like you're getting it off the bench as well. Like, and they haven't even really been challenged all that much. Like, they've got off to some slow starts, yes, but I mean, you're looking at the margins of victory here. What is that? Quick math. 44 points and
54
points in the
23,
in the 23, 21 and 30.
Yeah.
Like they've not even been challenged yet. So they're playing like the number 4 team in the country. They're playing like a national powerhouse, and you know, props to Terry Morin for scheduling a unreal non-conference schedule, because you have Stanford in the Bahar Mar Pink Flamingo Classic. Then you have Miami afterwards. That's not a sleeper either. And then NC State here in Bloomington in the Big Ten ACC Challenge. So you know, there are multiple opportunities for this IU team to show really who they are and what they're made of going forward. But you know, a lot of good signs with production and how this team is playing so far.
I mean, you had the top 15 team against Kentucky as well that you destroyed. You knocked. I mean, you absolutely dominated them. Yeah, exactly. and you know, it's the women's team for me personally, from a personal non-journalism perspective, is unique for me because it's a team that I don't cover, I don't follow, but I can be as a fan. I can go in the stands and I can watch this team play, and they are fun to watch. They are, and they have I don't want to say they have a bad bench, but their starters are so good. That top 5 is so good for them, so experienced. It's as good as anybody else's in the nation. And so when you go toe-to-toe, your 5 versus their best 5, your 5 is probably going to win. And that really helps you kind of get out to strong leads, dominate games early, and you have great presence in the front court. It's so impressive. I'm really excited to see that they have Thanksgiving in the Bahamas against Stanford and Miami. So it's going to be a very fun few games there to follow. I mean, I don't know if you guys are going to be making the trek to make it a bit warmer for your Thanksgiving, but I'm not going to be personally. But it's going to be a fun one.
I wish I could, but I don't think I'd the money.
I'd love to go.
Some IU Media School funding.
Maybe next Thursday we'll have the show in the Bahamas all together.
We'll talk to Galen about
that's good. Yeah. He'll be down for it.
One thing that I kind of want to go back to you, Jack, is you mentioned this Kentucky game, and for me that was impressive because Indiana here showed their talent on a national level. ESPN came to town. Mm-hmm. It was a top 25 matchup. Well, forget the top 25 matchup. It was Indiana-Kentucky. Mm-hmm. So, especially after last year, Indiana showed out. Mckenzie Holmes finished with 29. Impressive. I feel like for me, if we want to talk about the most impressive player so far for Indiana, is Mckenzie Holmes, in my opinion. She's just been dominant wherever she is on the floor, obviously finishing with 29. But she's been a key factor in every single one of these games, and obviously she's going to be a key factor as the season moves forward.
Yeah. No, she
Yeah,
was,
any National Player of the Year conversation in women's basketball this year that does not include Mckenzie Holmes is not valid. She is played out of her mind. Nobody has even come close to stopping her this year so far. And when she's got it going like she has been so far, that's what allows you to have a second star each game. That's what allows Alexa Golbe to score 22 points on Tuesday night. That's what allows Nicole Cardano-Hillary to score 29 at Butler. It's, it opens up the rest of the play, and it's not like she's getting other people involved because she can't score. She's still doing whatever she wants on the low post and is still able to get everybody else involved. And, really good teams have that one star or one or two star players. And I mean, Grace Berger's a gold medalist over the summer. So playing some of the best competition in the world.
Literally.
Legitimately in the world. And just coming back to college to just absolutely dominate the game as well. I mean, there's a lot to be excited about with this IU women's team.
yeah.
Definitely great times for Indiana basketball, both men and the women's side. It'll be fun to see the next couple weeks over Thanksgiving break and the whole spiel. We only have about 4 more minutes, so we'll talk about something a little bit different, something that's not tending in the greatest of directions. Jack, you're laughing. You're looking at me laughing over there.
Trying to find a positive spin on football.
Trying to talk about some Indiana football. Obviously, I think in the loss against
4 minutes.
4 minutes.
Basketball.
4 minutes.
That's fair.
Let's do it.
I think embarrassing is
Understatement.
an understatement. People, when things were kind of tending down, people were talking about, the Rutgers game is going to be the one that we win. And then we go out and then we get absolutely blown out by 35 points.
30, yeah.
Rock bottom. This is rock bottom.
See, that result has not, I think, because if you aren't 2-7 and you lose to Rutgers that badly, it's a much bigger deal. People are kind of just like, you lost by 35 to Rutgers.
Yeah.
Rutgers are not exactly knocking the doors off people with their point scoring ability.
If I have to compare this IU football season to a series or to something that I've watched recently, it's basically the Fire Festival. Do you guys know the Fire Festival?
Yeah.
So that music fest where all the celebrities promoted during summer, it's going to be this big event on a private island. Everyone's going to have this luxurious time, the best vacation of their lives. And when you land on the island, it's an absolute chaos. This is what Indiana football is this season.
It's like that meme where it's like what you ordered versus what you got delivered.
Exactly. It's so much hype going into the season. I don't think I've ever been a part of anything that's had this much hype before in IU athletics. Like the amount of love Tom Allen was getting, the amount of excellence that all the players were going through, all the hype heading in, and then it just 6 games losing streak and losing to Rutgers
some
by
good
35.
individuals.
Let's be honest. There were some things that were just like so bad it was funny at that point. Like the highlight that makes national news is probably 250 shirtless guys up in section 19.
Yeah.
I mean, props to them, but hey, they saw the field goal that scored us the only 3 points of our side. So that I legitimately I've been watching IU football for a long time. My dad and I have been going to the game since I was 6. So our first year they went 1-11. I can't recall a worse game.
If
it really that was bad.
If you had told me at the beginning of the year you're 2-8, what went wrong? I would not have expected it to be a lack, like just a not a lack of motivation, but at many times you just looked around and you're saying, man, that was just low effort. There was not much like belief in this team. I mean, I think probably I don't even know when like that breaking point was. Maybe in early as Penn State when you could just get manhandled. This team, I think it's. I'm very fascinated what happens next year because that's where your eyes have to go. You can't look at Minnesota or Purdue with anything. Your eyes have to move to next year.
That's one thing that I want to bring up is who is kind of in the hot seat right now. Is Sheridan in the hot seat?
Absolutely.
Is Warren in the hot seat?
I think the players have to take the blame as well.
I think Sheridan's
the players have to take the
bucket of
blame
lava right now.
I think Tom Allen is. I mean, first of all, he has a huge contract. Ain't getting fired unless it's bad again.
Yeah, I don't think Coach Allen's leaving at all.
I think that there needs to be change. If you go 3 win, if you get 4 wins from this year, I'm stunned, and that's a bad statement in and of itself.
Yeah.
So I think that if you get 2, 3, 4 wins as a team that said Tom Allen, and he still said, I believe this team could win a Big Ten championship. And you get 4 wins, you get none in conference if they don't beat Minnesota, don't beat Purdue, which is very possible. You need to take a hard look at yourselves, and that is going to require some change of personnel. It's not just, all right, guys, new word of the week is win 3 more games.
This week is finished.
This week is finished.
And talking about finish, I think that someone...
Why don't we start first?
Exactly.
Yeah, definitely. Someone has to go. You can't come into the season expecting at least a bowl game and then...
Well,
only 2 games.
I know Allen has touched on in the pressers, he's very frustrated with how his team plays. Obviously.
Yeah.
But he's been very clear there's going to be no in-season changes, but
That makes sense.
he's already alluded to there's going to be some tough conversations in the off season. So it's really going to be tough. You can look at the coordinators we've had come through here in the past on offense and defense, and it's like, well, it sucks that they got poached, but if you want to be a big program, that happens all the time.
You need to have coachable guys.
Yeah.
There needs to be reason for someone else who's better than you, bigger than you, to want to have your guys.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's how you get better.
And I mean, Mason, you brought it up how Coach Allen said there's going to be no in-season changes, and I mean they're going to talk at the end of the season. But one thing that I want to bring up is I was in the press conference when he said that, and I don't know the reporter that asked the question, but as soon as he asked the question, Coach Allen's facial expression completely changed. And I mean, it's been a tough season. I've been trying to defend this team all year round. Yeah, they've had a pretty tough schedule this year, but I mean the Rutgers loss by 35 is just completely unacceptable. Yeah. It's 11:01. Sadly, I gotta let you guys go. It's been a blast. I've completely loved talking to you guys every now and every day, but it's been a great time. We'll see. An interesting week. Will Indiana get the win in Minnesota this weekend? We'll see who we play in men's soccer. Mason Williams, Tall Loud, Jack Edwards. Guys, thank you guys for coming. I'm Kevin Vera, host of Coffee, Cream, and Crimson. We won't be on live air next week as it is Thanksgiving, but we'll have a little something special for you on Instagram and Twitter. So from myself, Jack, Ta, Mason, happy Thanksgiving, everyone. It's been a pleasure, and we'll see you guys next week.